Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I wanted to come on here. First of all, I hope everybody had a great holiday. Mine was good, quiet, nothing crazy, but perfect. Um, and we all know that Candace has been on a break. She's not coming back until after the turn of the year. But there's been so much going on with this whole Mitch situation. And I did post a video previously about how I was feeling. I was very skeptical. Um, because of information that Valhalla VFT had shared. And I know there's a whole nother rabbit hole with information that he's presented. But Candace went live last night. I did watch it live. I've also re-listened to it like 3 times. I love these kinds um, of lives where other people can join in and comment. I feel like it's really productive. It also gives us a lot of information. So I wanted to go over certain parts of her live stream and just talk about a few things on there. Now, there's a lot of people who contributed to the conversation that I'm not familiar with. I have an X account, but I don't go on very often. So I think that most of these people are more active on X, which would be why I'm not aware of who they are. But I'm going to hop in and I'm going to share this screen. I wish I could share it so that it wasn't so. I'm going to share it like this. I wish I could share it so that it wasn't so small. Like, I wish I could make this a full screen, but I can't. It's not letting me. I don't know if I can do that or not. But okay. So this first part I'm going to touch on. I'm just looking at some notes because I've been taking some notes. This first part here is, let's see. This one is in regards to Ian Carroll, who's also in here for a little bit. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but he is in there. And this is about a text that she had received on December 14th from Ian. And she makes it sound like he was pretty concerned about supposedly a massive lawsuit that people were trying to put together, I think in regards to like Brian Harpole, but like she says, and I think she'll touch on it here, but that can't be true because she hasn't gotten a cease and desist. So we'll see what comes of that, or if it was just an attempt to try to get her to be quiet. So I just have to switch here. Hold on. I really feel like I need to find some better streaming software. I don't really care for the layout on the one I'm using. All right, here we go.
I had no show. Sunday, I want to tell you this part because this is important. On December 14th, I received a text message from Ian Carroll. I hope he is in this chat. I'd like him to jump in case I get anything wrong here. But the text message was to me and my producer, and he was like, hey, like, I have something for you guys that I need to discuss. It's pretty urgent. When I got around to calling Ian, he told me that basically he had received information from someone. He didn't want to give me the name of the person, and that definitively, like, Brian Harpole was preparing some huge lawsuit against me. And I was like, that's really weird. And I think he said like some big like Texas lawsuit. I don't know but like basically it was like it's a big lawsuit and like, you're going to want to be careful talking about this. And I was like, okay, well, that just can't be accurate because that's not how lawsuits work. I know about lawsuits. And I said, I think someone's intentionally giving you bad information to try to scare me from talking about the Fort Huachuca thing anymore because I hadn't yet hosted Mitch to tell a story. But I had indicated that like I might do more with Mitch or I might pass him off to Ian Carroll. Next thing you know, Ian Carroll's getting a phone call and told that I'm about to get sued for mentioning Brian Harpole. So I thought that was like a little weird. And I basically said to Ian, I think, yeah, intentionally somebody gave you bad information. You first have to start with the cease and desist. And I don't factually know if what Mitch said was wrong. That ends. Monday is when Erika and I obviously had to sit down for 4.5 hours, and Turning Point kind of hosted a Q&A, which I thought was unfair and against the rules, I will say, because we agreed to not speak about anything. But that went on. Obviously, on the Tuesday, I came back and actually, let's go back to the meeting with Erika, because this is also relevant. During that meeting, I did not bring up the Fort Huachuca thing because I, first and foremost, needed to continue vetting various aspects of it. But also, I have Brian Harpole's number. And so I was just going to text Brian Harpole directly. But it is worth saying that during that interview, Erika gave me Brian Harpole's flights and said, like, I know that you mentioned that you thought Brian Harpole was at this interview. Here are his flights. Now, you guys would later see those flights because Alex Jones then mysteriously has these flights. I took the flights from her. I thought it was interesting because I didn't bring up Fort Huachuca, and I wasn't intending to bring up Fort Huachuca, and I hadn't mentioned Erika on the show. And I looked at them and I said, "Oh, well, this is not an alibi because the meeting ended at 7:30 a.m. and planes that left Fort Huachuca were back in Texas. Actually, the SAM plane, as we know, went straight to Texas. And I think Brian Harpole's flight left at like 3:42 or something in the afternoon in Texas. So I was like, this does not conflict with the idea that he could have been leaving a meeting at 7:30 a.m. So it's a pretty short flight to Texas. So I said that, and that was it. But I said, but thank you for giving me this because now I can tell people that I have these flights, and also that he doesn't like yet have an alibi for that morning.
Sorry, guys, I'm getting over a cold. Okay. So I felt like that was a part I wanted to leave in just simply for that last part, really, for the portion where she's clarifying that because I've heard that there has been proof that Brian Harpole was not there. But just like she said there at the end, giving her information for a flight that didn't leave until mid-afternoon when this meeting supposedly ended before 8 a.m., it obviously does not take away the chance that he was actually there. Let's see here. Okay, going back, I'm going to skip ahead. Okay. This part I found interesting, and I didn't get a chance to yet. I was going to look and see. Actually, I'm going to scroll up here really quick to see if I'm just looking at Candace's. Yeah, I don't know where she was going to post. Okay. So this next part here, she's talking about Nate from Valhalla VFT, who I have always really liked. I like his demeanor. This story here is rubbing me the wrong way. It's making me question Nate's motives a lot more than I ever did. I really didn't feel this way about him. It just goes to show, you don't know for sure. And I can't say that, the part that is tricky and that I'm waiting on is she has stated that this call that had taken place was a call that Mitch had received from Nate himself. And it wasn't just Nate. I think, is it Paramount Tactical? Whatever his name is, she'll mention it, I think. But they had actually called Mitch to speak with him. And being that apparently Mitch is a very paranoid person from supposedly this whole, being hunted by the cartels situation that supposedly has taken place over the last like 30 years, he had recorded the call, and she's stating she heard the actual recording, which I'm really intrigued to hear this because I would very, very much like to hear how this conversation went down, especially now that I'm having doubts about Nate's motives. So let's listen to this because I think this is important.
On the 20th, and this is very interesting, these two YouTubers, Valhalla and Paramount Tactical, reach out to Mitch. And they're being super nice to him. And they're saying, or one of them said, and I don't want to mix them up, but we have the video of it because Mitch is predisposed to paranoia. And he recorded them. And I'm going to drop the conversations. I'm happy to drop them after this live. They're so nice to him. This is on December 20th. And they're not questioning whether or not he was in the special forces. They're not saying anything weird. And they're actually saying to him that I may be under foreign influence. And I'm like, okay, these guys are clearly not good guys. Or actually, the 20th is when he first told me that they had.
So that one part in particular really weirds me out. I just realized my space heater is on. Let me turn it off in case it's too loud. Sorry about that. So, what did she say specifically? She said, let's play.
Whether or not he was in the special forces, they're not saying anything weird. And they're actually saying to him that I may be under foreign influence.
Okay, that part in particular, that she may be under foreign influence. I find this uncomfortable. If this is what Nate said, if she's not confusing Nate's conversation with the Paramount Tactical guys' conversation, I'm under the impression that maybe they both called separately. I don't know. It would be weird if there was like a, I don't know, maybe they conference called. I have no idea. But if he's saying that he's concerned she's influenced by a foreign government, what are we talking about? Every day on his lives, he's talking about how we support Candace. We love what she's doing. We don't think that there's, that she's trying to give bad information. I don't understand why he would say this. All I can imagine is that it was just a tactic to try to get information from Mitch, not knowing that the call was being recorded. I mean, I would assume that you would assume there's a chance. This day and age, I think most people probably should be assuming there's a chance these calls are recorded, but I would love to hear this. I don't know where she's going to post it. She does go on to say she's going to post the call, but why would he say that? And maybe you guys can comment in the comments and tell me what you think about this. I just find it really bizarre, especially given that they're talking to a guy who's supposed to be working with Candace. And so why is he trying to deter? If there is any legitimacy and that's what he was genuinely trying to get to the bottom of, why would he make that claim? Why would he state that? Especially when he's constantly talking about how much they support Candace and what she's doing. I don't know. This weirds me out. I don't know what I think about it. Tell me what you think. Let's see if there's any more. I think we're going to listen to this for a few more minutes because there's a few more pieces of information that I wanted to listen to about this.
And I'm like, okay, these guys are clearly not good guys. Or actually, the 20th is when he first told me that they had reached out to him and wanted him on his podcast. It might have been the 21st that they called him. I'll clear that up. But between the 20th and the 22nd is when they are suddenly calling him and they're like, oh, yeah, we're just concerned about Candace. Okay, yeah. And you're going to see in a couple of days, he loses his mind and suddenly speaking to exes and baby mamas like he's Jerry Springer, but that was the nature of their phone call. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. I don't know these guys. And then on the 22nd, I get another phone call from Ian Carroll. Oh, he's here. I'm going to add you, Ian. Add a speaker. I get another phone call from Ian Carroll, and this time Ian is totally freaked, freaked as in very concerned, because obviously I have a relationship with Ian Carroll, and to some degree he respects Valhalla. And he's like, look, I have this friend who's in the military. He has a YouTube channel, and he basically runs me through, and he's basically saying that he wants to talk to me. And it was kind of said to me in a way that was if you don't kind of take this rope, and jump off of this Mitch train, what's going to come out about Mitch is going to be explosive, and you're going to go down on the ship. That's essentially the vibe that Valhalla was giving to Ian Carroll, and basically kind of demanding to get on the phone with me. And I was like, and then he starts talking about, first he said stolen valor. He was never a Green Beret. I was like, he absolutely was a Green Beret. I sent that up the chain of the government. That's just not true. And it felt to me like they were clearly being quite aggressive with Ian on the phone, demanding to speak to me, demanding that I allow them onto my platform, talking about his ex-wives. I was like, I don't care about any of this. And I said to Ian, this seems to me like they're trying to distract me with stupid stuff. If he has something that is concrete that Mitch somehow defrauded me or lied and did definitively was not a Green Beret, then please just have him email it to me. And I said, and if he emails that to me, I will deal with it immediately. And I also made it clear to Ian that, because they were oh, then she could get in trouble for fraud because she raised money for this guy and he wasn't even a Green Beret. I was like, first off,
what is that? You could raise money for anyone you want to raise money for. I don't think that she's going to get in trouble for raising money for someone, whoever it is, if their career wasn't what they claimed it was. That's not fraud. I mean, people choose to donate their money based on information provided. There's no, when I donate to whomever, I don't go around and get paperwork and you're making this choice. So that's a very weird thing to say. All of this is weird to me. I don't love this.
off, he never asked me to raise money for him. So the idea that he was doing this to defraud me for money, that came out naturally when I was live. I said I would do a give, send, go, because I said people were going to start digging up things. Like I just had a feeling like I thought it would be other people, but I just felt like, oh, let's raise money for him. He had a tough life, whatever. And I had that court paperwork of what he was going through. So that was natural. And not only that, but the very next day, which I will show on my show this week, Mitch sent me an email the day after I started the Give, Send, Go. The morning after, he sent me and Skylar an email and said, thank you so much for raising money, but I do not want to accept this money from you. And he was very self-deprecating. He was like, I'm just a fat, ugly man, and I just wanted to help, and I don't deserve this. Like, I basically don't.
Sorry about that, guys. If there's like a weird jump there, I had to go help my son with something. I was really glad that she brought this part up because I feel like this changes my perspective a little bit on Mitch. After watching the Valhalla video, I felt the same way probably a lot of people do. Like I was questioning how much we could trust Mitch and the things he was saying. And, once someone loses that trust, it's really hard to get it back. And once she started the GoFundMe or Give Send Go thing for him, I was feeling very much so like this was kind of like his goal. So the fact that she said this um really changes my perspective on that. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Um I'm going to skip to the next thing I wanted to talk about here, but um I found she also said um he did state that if for some reason um his tips or whatever genuinely lead to like the solving of this Charlie Kirk assassination, then okay, he'll accept the donations, but uh otherwise he doesn't feel comfortable taking them. I think that's a pretty noble thing. Most people these days need money, so yeah, I thought that was an important part as well. Okay, so this next part, let's see here. Okay, so this next part is about Cabot Phillips. I honestly don't know much about him, but she goes into a little bit about him here, and I wanted to share because I find this interesting as well.
Mitch initially said we gave him that photo. Now, the Cabot Phillips thing is also very interesting. I don't really care about Mitch's estranged relationship with his son. Like, I'm not interested. I'm not Maury. I'm not here to bring families back together. But I tried to debunk him. I thought that was very easy to be able to debunk him with Cabot Phillips because Cabot Phillips, he has a daily show at the Daily Wire. I think he does it maybe 3 times a week or something. But the Morning Wire, obviously, I worked the Daily Wire, and I was like, well, that's pretty simple. If you're saying that Cabot Phillips was here in Arizona, he actually lives here in Nashville and he has a show. Let me just go find him on his show. Well, it also turns out that Cabot Phillips, from September 4th all the way through to September 10th until September 11th, took a vacation and he wasn't on a show. So when I realized that, I did the right thing. I messaged Cabot Phillips. I sent him 2 messages asking if he could just answer whether or not he was there, because I don't want to throw any shade his way. I had sent him, just to get to the Cabot Phillips bit, I had sent Mitch multiple photos of guys like this person. I thought maybe Dan Flood this. He's like, no, 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 no. I gave him no context, but saw that Cabot Phillips was trending, and I had no idea he was one of Erika's exes. I sent him the photo, and he's like, that's the guy. That's the guy that was with her. And again, I'm now relying on Mitch's memory. I don't know what his facial recognition software is. If it's like mine, it's terrible. Okay. I can meet someone 5 times and still not place their faces. But if it was my husband, he can meet someone once and he's like, that's him. We saw him at the airport in New Jersey. You don't remember? And I'm like, of course I don't remember. Some people have it.
I've been thinking about this too. I feel like I'm pretty good with faces. But I do think it's really dependent on the scenario. So yes, could Mitch have been, especially if all of everything he says is true and he's lived this crazy life basically on the run, would he be potentially very aware of the people he's around, especially given he was going into a military base, when he's had so many issues for so many years? Yes, maybe he would be paying very close attention. But if you don't know someone, I find it really hard to imagine that it would be easy to pinpoint who you saw. I've always thought of this, like when you talk about like the um, like a lineup of criminals, right? If someone's supposed to pick from a lineup, I feel like it would be really difficult. And I can't imagine how much weight it truly holds. But I mean, depending on the scenario, right? So like if I was at a grocery store and I saw someone like, how kids have like crazy hair day and they like put pipe cleaners and crazy colors in their hair. If I saw someone walking through the grocery store who had hair like that, I would probably notice it and take note. And then if I went to like the drugstore after and I saw that same person, I'd be like, weird, that's that same person. Like I would recognize them there, of course, because they were out of the usual. I thought of this in comparison to like the Matrix, when he's walking down the street and it's all these business people in dark suits. And then there's the lady in red. Yes, you notice her because she stands out. So I don't know. I struggle with that part of it. She goes on, obviously she had said that he was on vacation, and I'm not sure, so I'm not sure where she got it. Obviously, you can see here that Liz Wheeler states pretty glaring inaccuracy here. Just a quick glance at Daily Wire content shows Cabot Phillips present on Monday on Morning Wire on 9/4, 9/8, and 9/10. Now, I went to go look at that, and I don't know. I was trying to scroll through that and see where he was, and it was very I don't know, I couldn't see just his face anywhere. I was seeing, like, other people, so I don't follow him, so I don't know who's on the show with him, if it's just him, or I didn't see any, like, thumbnails basically with just his face or something, and maybe that's not usually the case. So, clearly she's saying here that he was, on the Daily Wire or the Morning Wire on these dates. And then here, Candace says, without even realizing it, Liz Wheeler just made the Cabot Phillips piece even more compelling because she goes on here to say on 9/4, Cabot posted, "So let it be known that I'm a mustache guy for at least the next 3 weeks." And she says about that, Cabot posted the evening of September 4th that he had completely shaved his beard off and indicated it would take 3 weeks to grow back. How did it grow fully back less than 4 days later by the 8th and then look like it was mid-growth on the 10th? I'm assuming the 8th was pre-recorded, which certainly could be. I don't know what kind of content it is. If it's specifically like daily content, then I don't really know. Interesting and curious. He certainly could pre-record. I think a lot of people pre-record when they're going on vacation. Seems logical. I don't know that we could say for sure the mustache is, like, solid proof because even in this picture, he clearly has one, so I don't know. Maybe he didn't shave it like he said he would. I don't know. I don't think it could be any solid proof or evidence, but it does make you wonder for sure, especially I went in to look because I was curious how often maybe he goes on vacation because I feel like that would be telling as well. If this is someone who is incredibly diligent and doesn't take much time off and very seldomly is on vacation, it would be more curious that he happened to be on vacation that week and then was supposedly seen at that hotel with Erica. So we are going to skip ahead now to Okay, so this part here is about TPUSA and Candace reaching out in regards to trying to obtain an alibi for, I believe this was in regards to Erica.
It's being, I don't know, I guess sort of denigrating what we were doing. I then was like, okay, let me text someone more responsible at Turning Point USA and ask, hey, do you guys want to give me an alibi? So I put Andrew Colbert and the COO in a chat, and I was like, hey, just figured we could have a direct line and you can just give me Erica's alibi and I'd be happy to publish it because I'm not interested in like throwing mud on someone's name. I just want to get to the truth. That conversation was had yesterday and they did give me an indication of what she was doing, which was making dinner for Charlie. I have asked for, metadata to show that it was, Charlie that she was texting, and I'm still waiting for that. So the last conversation I had with them, think that was yesterday, Sunday at around 1 o'clock p.m. ish, my time, Central, I think. And they said that Erika got busy with the kids and that they were going to get me something. So I'm still waiting on that. Just so you guys know.
So I'm going to skip ahead to basically the end of the stream because she actually talks about this again. So after bits and pieces here, she does bring on other people to talk. And this Suleiman, maybe? I'm not familiar with him. I think I've heard of him though. And he is essentially asking for clarification around what they would feel or what it would mean if Candace never got confirmation. You'll hear what he says, but I wanted to play these two pieces back to back because they're connected. She goes into more detail. Okay.
It makes no sense for him to go behind the scenes when he could just texted me and said, "Hey, I heard you covered this. Just wanted to give you this. Here's where Erika was," and so you could update people. That doesn't make sense to me. And I've heard that they are spending a lot of money on an anti-marketing campaign, if you will. I am trying to get receipts on that to see if that's true. And if that does pan out to be true, then I think we have our answer. I just added you, Suleiman. Did you want to say anything or did you just want to listen?
Yeah, I did want to say something. Hopefully my mic is working. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I'm just in an Uber. Oh, brilliant. I guess my question is this, that when it comes to, by the way, I first of all appreciate the work you're doing. And also, I think one of my friends is on your team. But that being said, one of the questions I have is, in terms of Huachuca, how does someone prove the negative? And what I mean by that is, I can't always prove where I am at all times. So, for example, how do you prove that you're not somewhere if you don't somehow have some kind of photograph you take on the day? Like, how will they be able to disprove where they were? And the reason I asked that is because you can ask that about anyone. For example, Sam, I don't know where Sam was when Charlie Kirk got assassinated. So will he be able to prove it or not? We just don't know. So I guess the question is, how do you prove the negative?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is just answer, right? Hey, I was not here. That would be like a nice strong start. I'm Brian Harpole and I was definitively not there. The second thing is you would just be so surprised at how much your phone has. If you were there, then Brian Harpole would have had to have taken a flight to Fort Huachuca relatively early on the 8th or early on the 9th. I mean, he could, if he's awake at that time, this is supposed to be like a guy who's doing security. He's got to be up early. How quickly before you roll over in bed and text somebody about something, like whether it's like breakfast, whatever it is, you're texting, and that is creating a timeline of everything you're doing all day. Like if you asked me what I was doing today between, I don't know, 4 and 6, I could look through my phone and see who I was texting at that time, and we'd be texting about something relevant to what we were doing or where we were about to meet up. There are so many.
Briefly, I wanted to just touch on what she said just a second ago in regards to starting off by just saying I wasn't there. While I agree, like if you ever watch any true crime, and especially, so one of the channels that I watch is the Behavior Panel. I love them. They're all very seasoned. They know what they're talking about. It's really great information. And they do talk about this often, about how one of the things that they look for is like a very solid, confident no. I wasn't there. And while I agree with that sentiment in that scenario, if you're in an interrogation situation, I understand that. But in a situation like this, I while I agree with Candace, I also, playing devil's advocate, I could see, like, if I was in this position and I felt like this individual was trying to dig up information on me, and I knew how information can be manipulated potentially or used in ways that I don't want it used, I could see being hesitant to even come out and just give a definitive no. I still probably would, because if you can prove it, great. I guess I don't know. I'm hoping that I'm making sense, but I feel like I could see why people would be like, it's, kind of like the whole lawyers tell you don't say anything until we speak with you sort of a thing. I could see it being that sort of an idea. But as she goes on to say, they did try to give proof. So, and it just was crappy proof. So they weren't trying to avoid it completely. So I know what she's saying, but I just felt like that was kind of like, would I just come right out and respond? Maybe. I don't know. I guess it would depend on how much I felt like this person was maybe trying to get me in something. But
many ways that I
she
think
goes
you
on
could
here about
show
Erika, and I
what you
wanted
were
to share
doing.
that.
But I think the first thing would be just to answer. Like, it's a pretty straightforward, like, I don't see the upside in Cabot Phillips not answering. There's been so much innuendo about him. People are talking about like his pizza tattoo, like, I don't think the energy of Ben Shapiro, I've been wondering what that's about. And so like when I saw it, like when he said Cabot Phillips, I was like, whoa, that I did not expect that turn. Because I had sent him so many people that like in Turning Point that I thought could have fit the description. Like maybe it was someone on the security team, and he was like, no, no, no. And then with no context, he was like, Cabot Phillips was the guy. And I don't know. I find that to be interesting that he was off. Now Cabot could just very easily just be like, I was on vacation. Like that's 7 days, right? I mean, he was off air from the 4th until the 11th. And hey, he's got the wrong guy, wrong memory. And I'd be like, okay, cool. But that's a long time, right? That's a very long time that he could send us something or anything. So yeah, I think there's a million ways, but it would start with just denying it. Like it would be very simple, especially because it's gotten so big. And I want to be able to do that for them. I want to debunk it. I want it to be off of people's minds. Like if Cabot was just like with his family on vacation in Scotland, I want to be like, hey guys, like Mitch we're looking for someone that looks like Cabot. You know what I mean? And so we can focus somewhere else. Or Erika has airtight. Here's where she was. This is what she was doing. And there really are just like, there's just another blonde who was on the base that day. I think that would make a lot of people feel good if they just did that.
And Candace, if they hadn't already
So
weighed in,
it makes sense.
that would be one thing, right?
So it makes sense what you're saying in terms of if you were to provide a text, what you're proving is that you texted someone. Or I mean, they're not going to give you evidence that they took a flight to Fort Huachuca. So I guess because if they did it or they didn't do it, they wouldn't provide it either way.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason I'm asking the question is, I get the logic behind it. Like, first of all, the smart play would have been not to say anything. After he started giving evidence to that Green Beret, it now becomes the onus is put on you. So I understand it. I'm on your side on that perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, let's take Erika Kirk as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say she wasn't there on September the 8th, but she
Mm-hmm.
hasn't got any digital footprint. Yes, she can deny it. That's one thing. But like, no one's going to believe her, even if she was to deny it. So how do you actually provide evidence that you weren't there? Because if you text someone, that's not evidence, because you could text from the place or from some other place. It's actually having like some kind of digital footprint somewhere else.
She's going to explain here the evidence they were trying to provide her for Erika on that day. What was I just going to say? But I am curious, and I wonder if anybody knows, when it comes to metadata and the information, I know I kind of want to take a look at my phone really quick. So like when you look at the information about your texts, is there anything in here that shows I was trying to see on mine, but is there any metadata in there when you're sending a text that kind of like triggers, I don't know, coordinates or something for where the text is coming from? I would imagine there is. I don't know how to access that. I would imagine there is. I know there is on photos, but there's got to be some sort of location information when it comes to text. If anybody knows, let me know.
Perfect example, because they did. You might not have been on earlier, but I reached out to Turning Point again because, like I said, I'm not interested in chasing rabbits. That I want to actually know what's real and what's not. Yes, Sunday. What's today? On Sunday, I think around 1:00 p.m. I got on the phone with them. I reached out on Sunday. On Saturday. Got on the phone with them sometime after mass on Sunday. Pardon, and they were like, hey, like, yeah, she was like making dinner with like organizing or making dinner with Charlie. Like, we're going to send you a message of like between her and Charlie speaking. And I was like, great, amazing. I will literally update Twitter right now and say like Erika was making dinner with Charlie. And they send me a message, but the contact was blacked out. So I went back obviously. And I was like, hey, like the contact's blacked out. Like, this could be a message between like me and George for all I know. And I was like, do you just mind like just sending, like, I know Charlie's number obviously. So just like, show me the contact. And they were like, oh, we blocked it out because it's like a pet, I don't know, like a nickname that she has for Charlie or whatever, and she just didn't want you to see it. And I was like, okay, well, you can just like change the contact name and just send me just send me a video of you opening it so I can see Charlie's number and tell my audience like this is confidently a text chain between Charlie and Erika. And then they just said, look, it's Sunday. I think it was like 1 o'clock or something, and she's busy with the kids, but we'll get you that. And so I waited. It's now been obviously more than 24 hours. It's been like 30. That was yesterday at 1 p.m. Now it's 9 p.m. on Monday, and they haven't sent it to me, like just the number so I could see that it was Charlie, but I'm waiting. But there's a perfect example of how they could just easily show it. So I'm waiting for that. And if I get it, I will clarify to people that she was making dinner. And I also said to them, like, I don't need to show people the message either. So like, don't worry about like his, like, whatever you call him getting out there. Like I'm happy to just like see it. And I think my audience trusts me enough that I would just say I saw it. So I'm still waiting for it. But that's a perfect example of how it could be done.
So that text message you're referring to,
Mm-hmm.
are you saying that it would indicate her specific location? Like she'd be like, oh, guess what, honey? I'm downstairs cooking, I don't know, roast
like
chicken for you. So
I'm recapping here, but it was pretty much like, hey, parking the car, like be up there for dinner, or like, and is dinner ready? Like, yeah, it's on the table now. Right. Well, if they have that and it has the date of September 8th, which it had the date of September 8th, and that was the communication, like dinner's on the table now, like I'll be right down or something like that. Okay, great. If they just blacked out the contact. So I can't obviously I can't say to you guys like.
Is it just me that finds that weird? I keep going back and forth. Like, are these people just stupid? I genuinely sometimes can't, because it's so crazy sometimes, the things that they seem to think that they could just use as like confirmation of things that are just absolutely not. Like, yes, like she said, if it showed Charlie's phone number and she could say, well, it's Charlie's phone number. Obviously, they were texting with each other and they're in their house, Um, but to black it out, it's like, what do you think that proves? Like, you have to know that it doesn't give any information. It could literally be a screenshot from is Andrew married? I don't know, him and his wife. Like, it could literally be a screenshot from any person, unless they said, like, Erika, unless she used Charlie's name in her text or something, like, it would be obvious that you can't prove anything with that information. So I don't understand that. Is it crazy, or is it just me that, like, to think that you could just black it out and she'd be fine? Like, who you're dealing with, right? I don't know. I found that weird. I am gonna go back now because I wanted to go to this conversation that takes place with Harrison from, InfoWars. I don't really follow InfoWars. Like, I have certainly watched, Alex Jones here and there. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the timestamp. But I don't really even know who this guy is, okay, Harrison. But she does bring him on here, and this conversation bothered me so much. And I know Ian kind of steps in at some point. I don't know if it's in the part I'm listening to here. If it is, actually, I think it's later on. I don't know. Let's listen.
Feeding us a fed slop and telling us that Charlie had a magic neck, and it's good to hear from people who disagree with us. So Harrison, if you want to unmute yourself and jump in, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I guess my whole thing is, why does this meeting even matter? Like, what is the actual claim that's being made here? That's been my confusion the whole point, the whole time, is like, okay, let's say that there's absolute proof, photographic evidence that everything that Snow says is true. Like, who cares? I mean, what does that prove? What is the actual accusation? Who do you think was conspiring with who to do what?
Yeah.
And I think obviously the name of the episode was, the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered. The insinuation is that this was a assassination planning meeting, which I don't even see any evidence of that. And then people I'm arguing with online are saying, no, this has nothing to do with the assassination.
Yeah.
So, I guess, if the space is why this matters, why does Fort Huachuca even matter? Like, what is the claim being made? I still don't even understand that.
So it matters because why would Brian Harpole be on Fort Huachuca at all? right? It matters because he's giving an alibi, which means he doesn't want to be associated. Like, it could have easily not mattered. Kind of, to speak to your credit, he could have been like, yeah, I was at Fort Huachuca with my brother. And my brother's in the military. I was dropping off some food. Okay, like that could have been then suddenly a dead end. That would have been nothing. Now, because Mitch had described this as a top secret meeting in an off-site building and had described this as top brass at the Pentagon and said that these sorts of meetings, and I am forgetting the military term, are when you're just about to embark on like a mission. I know I really uneducated, but military guys will sound better saying that. It was compelling. Like, okay, like I said, Brian Harpole was acting funny. He's been acting weird. He's been telling verifiable lies, and he cared enough to present an alibi, meaning he didn't want people to think he was there, right? So if you have to give someone an alibi, it's because you don't want people to think that you're there. There is an alibi is not needed if there's nothing to hide. So that's why it matters. I think that's why it matters. And this reaction, rather than being forthcoming, is why it suddenly feels like, okay, this is important, because no one's acting normal. No one's just like, oh yeah, cool, he was there. Like, it also is, as we have now learned, it's an intel base. He was telling the truth about exactly what building it was. I didn't name the building on my show because I wasn't sure if that would be like a national security problem, but it just happened to be that JTF was borrowing that offsite building, and it was supposed to be a top secret meeting for those purposes. Somebody that was involved in blacking out the windows had sent us a tip. Again, it's how people are reacting to the meeting that lets us know that it's important.
Okay. I mean, I guess
regarding the hotel, I never said it was important. Like I said, my perspective was there's 1,000 different reasons that she could have been at that base. Her mother has a contract, or had a contract, has a contract with the DOD. Erika has been open about her mother's ties to the military in the past. She actually did an interview and said that she moved to Arizona because her mother had a contract with the military. So again, weird thing is when Andrew's like, Erika wasn't in some fort, as if he's never heard of Fort Huachuca. His brother is in the military. His brother is a Captain Curtis Colvett. His first cousin is Captain Robert Colvett. So that kind of a language is why I've named this, why it suddenly really matters, right? It was sort of one episode. I didn't exactly dedicate a whole series to it. The reaction has been so almost like violently obsessed that the public is now going, oh, okay, well, it feels like there's something here. I think that's just sort of our natural instinct.
Okay. I mean, I think if you're saying that somebody is somewhere and they weren't there, then providing the alibi is not in and of itself suspicious. If the alibi is not confirmed, I guess you can be suspicious of that. But again, there's still not an answer. Like, okay, let's just say you're right. Let's just say that absolutely they were there.
Yeah.
What does that prove? What is the accusation? Because what it sounds like, and I mean, what the insinuation obviously is that this was a planning meeting for the assassination, and the people there had pre-knowledge of the assassination and were therefore in on it. So I think that if you are making that accusation, which in effect you are, right, you're in effect saying, okay, Erika Kirk and the head of TPUSA security were at this pre-assassination planning meeting.
Erika was there, so you guys have to stop repeating that. It's Erika was never at that meeting, and that's another thing. I've never said Erika was at the meeting. Mitch has never said Erika was at that meeting. There was never an indication she was at that meeting. He did not see her on September 9th. It was Brian Harpole who was at that meeting. To my knowledge, Brian Harpole, I don't know why he would be at an intel base at a meeting with top brass. And what I can tell you is if he was there, Turning Point doesn't know he was there. According to Erika and Justin Strife, who I sat down for 4.5 hours. So if Turning Point has him on their payroll, and they've outright purchased a security firm, and they don't know what he's doing on an intel base, yeah, it matters. And we don't need to know the conclusion to follow the clues here that something's wrong. So that there's this fashionable thing where people are always like, well, what's the final thing you're saying? Well, we don't know the final thing that we're saying, because that's not how an investigation works.
Well,
we have to follow the thing that's the lie. We have to follow, okay, this guy said he was here, he wasn't. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what it means yet. I don't know what it means yet. What I'm saying is the reaction to this is not normal. Brian Harpole shouldn't be on an intel base if Turning Point doesn't know about it. And he's presented an alibi that doesn't actually cover where he was, but he felt it necessary to give an alibi. So, I don't know, interesting. And I think we have a right to think. So, if that's cool, I'm just going to let somebody else jump in right here. I think, is that okay, Harrison? Or do you want to just have a final thought there?
Sure. Okay. So Erika Kirk was not there. You don't believe that Erika Kirk was there at all.
She wasn't there on the 9th. She was not seen on the 9th. It's not about whether I believe she was there. She wasn't seen on the 9th. That was never said. He never said it. I never said it.
I really despise when people try to do what he's doing right now, where he's kind of like twisting the words just a little bit that make it sound like she's specifically saying certain things. It drives me crazy. It's slimy seeming to me. And I don't know this guy. Like I said, I don't watch any of his stuff, but it gives me gross vibes.
Okay. But she was seen on the 8th.
Yes. And not at the Intel meeting, not in the Intel headquarters or whatever building they were using. She was not seen with the top brass, nothing like that.
Okay, so the pre-assassination planning meeting happened on the morning of the 9th. She was seen in the area on the afternoon of the 8th, but those were unrelated. She just happened to be there.
They are related because of the person she was with, who he believes looks like Cabot Phillips. He did see that person at the meeting on the 9th.
Okay, so again, you are saying that basically these people were there to conspire to kill Charlie Kirk, right?
I mean,
it's so annoying to me. Like, I seriously can't. I can't put into words. I find it so obnoxious, okay? Because and to clarify, like she was saying, like, it needs to be very clear. Like, no one claimed to see Erika Kirk at the Army Fort base, wherever he claimed he saw Brian Harpole. He claimed he saw Erika Kirk and potentially Cabot Phillips at like a hotel the night before. So separate locations, separate events that doesn't tie her to this supposed meeting or whatever. But it drives me crazy because he's sitting here essentially saying, well, but you're basically saying this was an assassination meeting. She's not saying it. Sure, that's an implication because of the timing. But what drives me the most crazy is, listen, for like how many years now has like America, particularly like housewives, right, been obsessed with true crime, right? Like true crime shot off the charts. Like, I don't know, maybe it was COVID, I don't know, but like it went off the charts and people were obsessed for a really long time. I feel like it's tapering down a little bit, but people were obsessed with true crime. So plenty of us have seen true crime documentaries where genuine, real detectives are discussing like a particular case. And how often, I would think almost 100% of the time, unless they catch someone in the act, it is almost a given that they will go down one avenue and hit a dead end or find out that that assumption didn't pan out and then go down another avenue. And that's what has to happen to solve a case. You can't solve a case if you don't ask questions. Like, you can't have the answer if you haven't even asked a question yet, right? How are you going to get an answer to a question if you haven't asked the question yet? Literally makes no sense. And what he's doing is trying to get her to say that a specific, like, this is what was happening. And she's very clearly saying, I don't know what was happening. I think she goes on to say, I don't know what that meeting was for. Maybe it was nothing, but we should at least find out, right? And on top of that, tell me about a crime, a true crime that like all of the closely related individuals to the victim were not investigated for days or weeks or months prior. Like, if they're people who knew, whether or not it's just to investigate them to see if they maybe knew information they didn't realize they knew that would help solve the case. Like, it's not always necessarily because they think this person's going to be like the perpetrator, but it could very well be that whatever information they gather from days prior provides them with information that might lead to solving the case. So to act like it's insane, we're talking about the day, 2 days to a day before the assassination took place. Why would you not look into every person associated with him, especially um the head of his security or his wife? Like, that is common, okay? That's commonplace that you investigate and you look into everything that took place leading up to the day it took place. So to act like this is crazy or it has nothing to do with anything else, why is it important? Like, I was thinking about this too. And I think that the reason that I feel like maybe he shot himself in the foot. If this gets out, I feel like he's going to lose followers because people don't get in his position by being complete idiots, right? But any old Joe Schmo anywhere would know what I just said. They would know that in order to get an answer, you have to investigate, and sometimes things pan out and sometimes they don't, and you don't know the answer until you have exhausted all of these things and you've got information to confirm. So the way that he's saying specifically, like, I don't know what it has to do with it, or I don't see why it's important. I feel like it comes off the way it does because I'm aware that he's probably an intelligent person, and I'm also aware that people who have probably far less, like, knowledge on, like, structures of businesses or, like, just in general, like, stuff like this happens because he covers it all the time. Any other Joe Schmo is going to know that this isn't you don't just do what he's asking her to do. It doesn't work that way. And because he's presenting it like this, I feel like what it's doing is making him look disingenuous because no one believes he thinks this, right? No one believes that he thinks that there's no reason to look into this. So what does that do? It's going to cast all kinds of doubt into like what he's saying, if he's bought and paid for. Now with all this Alex Jones stuff coming out, I don't know. This annoyed me so hard. This was probably like the part of this whole live that annoyed me the most. She kind of cuts him off here. I just want to keep going to see. Okay. I wanted to get to, I know this is a little long. I hope everyone sticks around because I really do think this stuff is important. I'm going to just get to this next section here because this is Mel. I think it's a Village Crazy Lady. I don't actually follow her. I should. I like her personality from everything I'm seeing here. And she brings her on here to talk. And this might go on for a little bit. I'm going to try and like cut it and talk and here and there. But Harrison comes up again when she's talking and it's just uncomfortable. Is it not going to let me play? It did this earlier.
Was there at all?
She wasn't there on the night at it.
Okay, but
Yeah.
She was seen on the 8th.
Yes, and not at the Intel meeting, not in the Intel, and you have every right not to believe Mitch.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Mel, would you like to jump into the foray?
Yes, thank you so much for having me real quick. So I just want to say, I get everybody's kind of hesitation with Mitch. Having been married to a Green Beret, having been around the military my entire life, I have seen all of this, all of it. Okay. So I was a lot like you, Candace. I was like, I actually don't care. I don't care about any of the background, anything like that. All I know is that this man has made very specific allegations against very specific people with a time and a date. This is very easy to debunk. Very easy, right? He actually, in a way, set you up that could have made you look like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are about 2 weeks out. And these people are, again, using random YouTubers, funneling weird, bizarre alibis, kind of quasi non-denials through these weirdos, right? And we haven't gotten to the thing. Hey, all you have to do is say straightforward, I was not there. I was not in Contest County on this date at this time. This is not complicated. And again, Candace Owens is not a random person, okay? She's just not. She's not somebody with a small following. So people can say, well, they don't have to answer. Well, that's fine. But they clearly care, okay? And when you have a large following and you get accused, or not even accused, because Candace hasn't accused, but when this comes up on someone's huge following, you answer it. You just do, okay? If you have an easy alibi, you just freaking do. I'm so sick of this pretending like, well, I don't have to answer all this crap.
Right.
No,
It is
actually,
stupid.
you do, okay? Sorry, but you do. Because you guys have been weird about everything from the get-go, okay? And everything about Charlie's murder is weird, okay? I think weird is the one word that we can all agree on, right?
I actually want to pause it for just a second because there is a part that I think I'm going to skip just because the video is already so long. But one of the individuals later on that I was going to cut into that I think I'm just going to probably finish up after this, maybe I might go to one other person because I really liked what he had to say. But excuse me. One of the things that I didn't realize was Harrison, that same guy who was talking just a moment ago, apparently 2 weeks prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination had posted, I think on X, stating that he was informed that someone was planning to kill Charlie Kirk. What? Like 2 weeks before, right? And I really liked how he approached this because he didn't just ask Harrison about it. He specifically stated, "You had posted this 2 weeks before. So my question to you is, did the FBI ever reach out to you?" Harrison said, he kind of hesitated, but he was like, "No." Okay. And that is why this is important. And that is why this is happening the way that it's happening. Explain to me how a human being can post on their very popular public forum that they heard that another massively popular individual was potentially going to be assassinated. And they posted this 2 weeks prior to the actual assassination taking place. And the FBI didn't reach out? What? Like, are you even kidding me? How? Why? Why would that not even be something that happened? And on another note, and he doesn't say, and it wasn't asked, so maybe he did, or maybe he just doesn't trust the FBI, which I would give him because I don't know that I would pass on the information. But did he go to them? Did he provide that information? And I just thought that was incredible. So you received information from someone you know who stated they knew that Charlie Kirk was supposedly going to be assassinated. You posted it on a public forum, and the FBI wasn't like, "Hey, who'd you hear that from? Because we're really trying to get to the bottom of this." Nothing? Are you shitting me? That's a mind explosion to me. I don't even have words. And so when he's sitting here acting like it's absolutely absurd for people to be asking questions and trying to figure this out, apparently not, because clearly the FBI is not doing their job. That's essentially like a handwritten note saying, "I have information. Look at me." And you didn't look into it. And we're supposed to believe that they're doing everything they can. Come on. Unbelievable. I thought that was such a good point.
Right? And
Right.
now I have looked into the NAR and Turning Point Faith and just the shadiness, the total shadiness surrounding this organization, which again is not its own organization. It is, in fact, an appendage of TPUSA, which means it is TPUSA. It's not like TPUSA Action, which is its own organization. People I don't think, really quite grasp the significance of that, of TPUSA Faith being an appendage of TPUSA. But so I know all of the like shenanigans that they've been involved in. So when I heard about this originally, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Now, I don't quite know what that meeting means. I know Harrison wants some very hard, like he wants us to make allegations, and
he wants us to make a mistake, more than anything else.
Well, I don't, hold on. Why would I want you?
Here,
why would I want you to make a mistake?
I don't know if you want me to make a mistake, but I know you have pressed pretty hard for, I want you to make a definitive statement, and nobody's ready to make that, actually. Here's what I know. These are the things I know. I presented those to you last night, and then you came back at me with, "What, so you're going to accuse me of being paid for?" Which was really bizarre to me, because I felt like I was pretty patient and not accusatory at all. Regardless, I'm not even going to go into that. But
well, okay, yeah. I'll go into it for a second. You said that I was pretending to forget that Charlie Kirk was moving away from Israel, and I was saying the weird thing was by me saying, "Look, I don't get what this whole meeting is even supposed to be about, or why it would be suspicious, or how it connects to the assassination in any way whatsoever," and that is somehow extrapolated to be, I somehow think that the official story of Charlie Kirk's murder is true. I'm saying I don't.
This is what I'm saying. Okay, no one knows how it might be connected. And no one's gonna know unless you freaking look into it. What are we talking about? Why are you acting like a stupid idiot? I'm sorry. I feel like you're acting like a dunce on purpose. What are you even talking about? How do you think a freaking crime is solved? You think all of a sudden someone just has all the information in their head? They didn't have to do anything in advance? What
I didn't say that.
If you don't know, Harrison, you can just keep watching the show. Like, you're not required to, like, like, if you're not sure where it's going to go, like, that's kind of the point of just, like, we're all kind of investigating this together. You know what I mean? We've been crowdsourcing this investigation. We have smaller pieces, and the smaller pieces become bigger pieces. Right. Do I know what it means that there are these, like, little flecks of what looks like there's plastic on the ground of the vehicle that Charlie was carried in after? No. It could mean somebody smashed their phone. It could mean somebody smashed their sunglasses. It could be one of the theories is like, oh, look, an ADSB exploded. I don't know. You're like demanding. What is it? It's like, I don't know. I just got the picture, man. Like, and so I think your energy is just, frankly, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, but like, it's a little lame, I guess is a nice way to say it. It's just pretty lame to like try to put this like unnecessary pressure or make it seem like it's weird that we have questions about why Brian Harpole would be on an intel base if he's actually there. Like, what do you get? What do you mean? It's giving Ben Shapiro, you know? You never want to give Ben Shapiro. Just wait. You just want to wait and like see where it lands. If I start making allegations that are factually untrue, or if I don't recant something, if I go somewhere and it ends up being a dead end, then I would understand that energy. Like if like, you know, Erika did hand me her perfect alibi and I was like, well, I'm not going to.
This is something I've actually wanted to talk about for a little bit. I won't go too long, but I think that people underestimate how important it is to be able to, as a person, to be able to admit that you were wrong or you don't know, right? And I feel like Harrison is one of these people who would never do that, right? Think about any scenario you've been in. Maybe it's like a job you had and like your supervisor specifically asks you a question. You 100% know the answer. You confidently give it and they say, actually, that's wrong. You're like, I'm sorry, what? And I've had this happen. I had this happen when I worked in finance and my supervisor had asked my team of people a specific question and they were right. My team was right. And he claimed they were wrong. And I said, no, they gave you the right answer. I had just recently moved to Florida from New England, which is where I'm from and where I am now again. And that individual my supervisor tried to go on to tell me that the reason I was wrong about this was because it's different in Florida than it was from the state I'm from, which is just not true. The company I worked for had branches in every state of the country, and there were 3 states that had different rules, and all of the rest of them, including the one I came from and Florida, had the same rules. They just are exactly the same other than these other 3 states. And so I said, "No, you're wrong." And I printed off of the actual documentation within the company's website showing that they were correct. But at that point, I was brand new here. Would never trust him again. I would never trust because all he had to do was for whatever reason, people think they're supposed to know all the answers if they're in some kind of leadership role. It's a load of crap. You should never act like you have all the answers because we're never going to have all the answers. Things change on a daily basis all of the time. And so after that, I would never confidently ask him a question. If I had a question, I'm going to someone else or I'm getting to the bottom of it on my own because he's just going to give me whatever answer he wants. And then I'm going to be held responsible. And people really do underestimate how important it is to have the ability to say, guess what? I don't know the answer to this. I want to find out and I'll find out and get back to you, but I don't want to give you the wrong information. Or finding out you had the wrong information and saying, you know what? I was wrong. I apologize. This is why I thought what I thought, but I clearly was incorrect. And it happens sometimes. That goes a really long way, and I really hope that people understand that because what he's doing right now is exactly that. Like, I would have a hard time ever watching his content and believing that he's not just trying to force whatever he wants down my throat. And maybe he's great. Maybe people like him, but this is such a bad look. Such a bad look.
I'm not going to say it because I just want to put it out there. But I was actually really hesitant to put Mitch on the show because I wanted, he was like 100% certain it was Erika. He was 100% certain it was Brian Harpole, but I wanted to be very careful about how I went about things. And so I think that we just don't appreciate like people that actually care and are standing up to the feds right now, unnecessarily being sort of tossed to the wolves by like your perspective, which is like, if you don't have a perfect narrative and it's not neat and buttoned down, then don't speak. Like, no, guys, keep speaking, keep asking questions. Yeah. And if you're on this, like listening right now, you're going to get things wrong and that's okay. You have the courage to say you're wrong. And that's what I do. I always do that. I just say, you know what? I thought this, it's actually wrong. Let's pivot.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, I don't know where you're getting this idea that I'm saying don't do research or anything like that. I am confused why it's been a week of talking about this meeting. I still am not.
You guys are the ones talking about it.
Because it's been
I've been off air for 8 days.
It's been 3 months. I know, but
I know. For 8 days. You guys have been on InfoWars calling me a fraud, this, that, saying my husband's an MI6. Like, what do you mean? Why is this a conversation? Because you won't let it go. I had him on the show. That was it. We were investigating things behind the scenes, like, reaching out, like, I had already reached out to people for allies before I even had him on, like, hey, this guy said this, whatever. And then all of a sudden you guys every day are obsessing over it and making up lies. Like, you guys are the reason it's big. Like, respectfully, like, this is the work of you and Alex Jones and Paramount Tactical and Baby Mamas from 2000s. Like, you guys made it a thing. You guys made best
As
friends.
a friend
You know
of
what I mean?
both sides, can I hop in and mediate real quick?
Yeah.
I like what he says here.
Because I think that a lot of people come at this journalism from different angles because, and obviously I can't speak for either of you, but Harrison does more of reporting on what's already happened, and Candace tends to make her career out of reporting on trying to figure out what is the next end of the story. And you guys, you both stray into both lanes. But also I want to draw the distinction that Harrison has not been making all the same claims as Alex all the time. Alex is definitely a distinct voice from Harrison, and I've always really respected Harrison. I'm not saying that I actually disagree with him on this take, but I do think that he's not the whole InfoWars crew, and the whole InfoWars crew isn't Alex Jones, and Harrison's reporting.
Well, I agree, and I appreciate what Ian is saying here. I still revert back to no one is dumb enough to think that you have to have the absolute solution to a situation without first asking questions about it and trying to get to the bottom of it. You can't. Basically, what he's saying is, it seems like it's probably nothing, just ignore it. I don't even like, that's just a stupid stance, and it makes you sound unintelligent. And not even that, because like I said, you're not unintelligent. You got where you are because you're probably intelligent. So why are you doing this? Why are you saying it this way? It feels like you're doing it just to try to shut someone up. So why are you doing that? I'm gonna try and wrap up. I'm gonna go to I did have I did want to go to a clip where Myron was talking. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I feel like he's just so I don't know, harsh to listen to. A lot of the stuff he says is so ridiculous in like the podcast setting. But there's something about him that I feel is genuine. And he's actually really chill. He goes into just being appreciative of what Candace is doing and going into the fact that when you are investigating something as someone who's done it before, he's recognizing that there are times over and over and over again in an investigation where you go down one path and it leads to nothing, or you're given information from someone and the information is intentionally bad, like they're trying to avoid getting caught or associated, so they're giving you the wrong information. Like, this happens all the time. The difference is that Candace is doing it on a public forum where everyone can have an opinion. And so she's kind of put in this, like, firing range, like, what, you know what I mean? Like, firing squad or whatever, because she's outspoken and saying it on a public platform. And for the most part, people in her situation who are genuinely investigating cases like this, they don't have to do that, like, and in a sense you could say maybe she doesn't have to, but part of the reason she's got the information she does and gets so much information is because of her public platform. Like she said at the beginning, and I get that vibe from this live. It feels very much so like she's invited us all into like this, just like one-on-one meeting of the minds to try and just talk about like where we're at. And it feels like we're all kind of involved because there are so many people who might have information, and it's important that we continue to talk about it. So I really liked what he had to say. I'm going to skip to just this one last thing. I don't really recall what he says. This one is for a guy I also don't know. His name's Ryan. Ryan, is it Mata? I just liked what he had said here, so I'm going to go ahead and
Denizen.
Yeah, no, I just want to tell you, thank you, Candace, for everything that you're doing. We all appreciate, at least one person out there.
You
that
too,
seems like
Ryan. You've been crushing it. Yeah. You've been absolutely crushing it.
Well, thank you. And I think that the thing that upsets, I think, most Americans is the fact that you're doing the job that we expect Turning Point to be doing, right? Like, this was Charlie's organization, and you're the one out here asking the questions, and they almost seem like they're just content with whatever Fed swap narrative we get, and they're ready to move on and get the party started and go on to the next event and the next whatever. And it makes me feel anyways like that Turning Point and the amount of people that are going after and attacking you for trying to just find answers makes me think that Turning Point is something much bigger, that it feels like it's a giant money laundering operation, that it's a political machine, and that Charlie was just a pawn, right? That he almost didn't even know everything that was going on within his own organization. It got way too big for one man to follow everything. And some shady shit seems like it was going on behind the scenes. And I think there's a lot of key players that were involved in some shady shit that are they're incentivized to just kind of sweep this under the rug and buy the Fed swap narrative because they don't want any attention shined on whatever shady shit that they were doing. And I think that's why Charlie was putting Doge together. And I'll end it there.
And I got a really...
I agree with him completely. This is where I have gone numerous times. I've made other content where I've talked about how almost every major crime case that involves maybe someone who's got a lot of money or someone well-known or a celebrity, it's almost always based off of power and money, almost always. So to just act like TPUSA should be ignored and they're totally fine is so absurd to me. It's obvious based on all of the information we've gotten so far that Charlie was questioning a lot of things about what was going on with the finances of his company. And it absolutely would 100% be possible that he was not aware of a lot of the stuff going on because he was very busy. You know, I, I'm busy and I don't even own a company. So I'm sure that it would be very easy for things to be done under your nose without you being aware of it. And for people to act like it's insane to consider is so absurd to me. It's almost always the people close to you and having to do with money. And there's a lot of money in TPUSA.
Really big tip on that Doge investigation. I think there was something there. I think if this pans out, and it looks like it is panning out, Charlie discovered there was a lot of money that was missing. And again, I'm trying to encourage this person to speak out. So again, one of the balls that's been in the air that I've been slowly working on, but I think all of our instincts have been correct. There's a lot more than guy. And there's just been a lot of people that have been basically saying to us, you know, these cheap tactics, to even question anything means that like you are not you have to just accept.
Because I'm making it work for everything.
Myron, you got to turn yourself off. You're mute on. I can mute your mic. Actually, that's a great ad. Yeah, so it definitely feels really weird. Diligent. Let's go to you, Diligent Denizen.
So, yeah, I think that. Sorry. I really liked what he said there. That was kind of all I wanted to do. I know this has been really long. I hope that people stick around. Please subscribe and like. I know this channel is new, so I'm definitely working on building up. I do plan on kind of regularly going live. I'm trying to get myself set up to be prepared for that and to try and do it more consistently. So I do hope that you guys enjoy this content. I hope that you'll subscribe, share, and hopefully in my lives we'll be able to talk one-on-one or face-to-face. I really like that. I like being able to interact with people. That's what I really want to be able to do on here. So that will be a very heavy focus on this channel. So I hope that you guys would like that. And I think that's going to be it for today. And I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have a good one. Bye.